of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Mr. Rory Booth, Ms. Mishka Pakipal, Mr. Sipiwe Mchunu, Mr. Piyush Khandawal, distinguished guests, online viewers, namaskar and welcome to the 11th episode of Bharat Ek Anubhuti, India, a feeling, an online travelogue series. Indeed, today in our midst, we have two very, very special artists joining us who need no introduction. And to commence today's program, I would like to welcome our first guest speaker, who is Mr. Rory Booth. And Rory G is an actor and a screenwriter. Just a brief about Rory G. Rory G is a South African actor and singer best known for co-presenting the SABC 3 magazine program, The X Factor, a behind-the-scenes companion show to the SABC 1 reality contest, The X Factor. Durban-based Rory G has a wealth of stage experience both as an actor and singer, having done children's theatre, and musical theatre reviews. He started his career as a writer with the first children's play called The Festive Fun with Bob and Rob. The landmark Indian play Spice and Stuff was staged both in Durban and Johannesburg. The play earned Rory G a nomination for Best Actor, a drama at the Durban Theatre Awards that year. In 2010, he won the Mercury Personality of the Year Award. He is one of the key writers in a film project with African Lotus Productions, Fine Line Productions, Indigenous Films, and National Film and Video Foundation. Namaste and welcome, Rory G, for your remarks today on episode 11 of Bharat Ek Anubhuti.
Thank you so much for having me. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Very big thank you to Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center and the Indian Consulate General of South Africa for creating this platform for South African Indians to be able to share their experience of their visit to India. And my visit has only been once. And I've just, ever since I went there, I just always wanted to go back, but haven't had the opportunity. And I thought a good segue into my experience with India is to just tell you a little bit about what my perception of India was before I went there. And growing up as a little boy, I had this obsession there's a song that I had on a VHS that my neighbor had, but I used to borrow it like every day to watch that song, Jumma, Jumma De De. But the original like 80s or 70s version, I'm not sure when that movie came out, but I'd sing it every day. I'd jump up and down on the couch, singing it with Amitabh, copying the moves. And that was my first, as a South African Indian boy, my first introduction to what I thought India was like, and it was through Bollywood. And I think a lot of South Africans can agree that we lost our language, lost our mother tongue somewhat, and a lot of the language we do pick up is through watching Bollywood films. And so growing up, that was my only insight into what India was like. And that is what I wanted. I wanted to be Amitabh Bachchan. I wanted to be there in Bollywood. I wanted to do the moves, sing the songs. What I like about Amitabh is that he actually sings his songs, that he acts out. And anyway, I grew up fulfilling my dream of becoming an actor, becoming a singer, becoming a dancer, but still not living that Bollywood star Indian dream. And my luck would soon change when I was 23 years old. And I auditioned for a film produced and directed by Jane Moodley called White Gold. And it was the story of, as my guest speaker Mishka will tell you soon in her story, which she was part of also. We auditioned for White Gold, and we got cast in it. And it's the story of indentured laborers and of how Indians came to South Africa And basically they were sold pipe dreams of a better life, and we ended up doing almost like slave labor for the white people as sugarcane cutters on sugarcane plantations. And it was basically a story about suffering and survival um, and looking for a better life, and basically how the story of Indian survival in South Africa and why we are here today. I'm going to fast forward a bit and just highlight, obviously, we're moving towards my India experience. And I remember clearly the day we were reading our contracts. I mean, we were all sitting together, Mishka and my fellow cast members, and we got to like page 6. They're just reading all the terms and conditions, and I'm just thinking it might have been page 8 or page 10, but page 6, and then it just said there, India travel. And all of us just like sat back in our chair and couldn't believe it that we were all going to India in like 6 weeks' time. And I think that's when it felt surreal. It felt unreal that we were going to India to film a film about how we got here, and it just felt like dreams were coming true. And I think it's one of the highlights of my life, that feeling, and the feeling of going home to tell your family that you're going to India, which was probably, growing up in South Africa, you always think that things like that are out of your reach. But what's amazing is that dreams really do come true. And for me, that was a dream. And um, the film required us to learn Tamil in a very short space of time. And we had 6. Luckily, we had a cast member who was also part of the consulate, Vignesh Sankaran, as our Tamil tutor, and he drilled us for like 6 weeks on and off in our sleeps, on the bus, in transit to India, in between shoots and sets. We just spoke Tamil day in and day out for 6 weeks. And in hindsight, it makes me think about how I'm a Telugu boy. My heritage is Telugu, and I didn't know a word of Telugu even. And it's sad to know that, your mother tongue is lost in our generation. And I had a thought that, at the time when Indians came to South Africa, the whole thing was survival and not so much culture, and you just had to do whatever you had to do to survive. And now that it's not so much that, and that we have progressed, and that we are fine, and that we are living safely and securely, I think it's time to bring back the culture to South African Indians more. I know it's there, but we can do it even more with the classical arts, with languages, with dance forms. I think we are ready now to bring it back and hold on to it. So we had sleepless nights with learning the Tamil, and but the funny story here is that we shot the movie, and it eventually got dubbed by actors from India, because our Tamil, South African Tamil dialect and India's is inauthentic, and there's a slight difference, and you can pick it up. And so they had to actually, for an authenticity reason, dub the movie with actors from India. But the amazing thing is that they found almost identical voices to our voices. It's just uncanny how they were able to match our voices with actors from India. Um, yes, obviously now I'm moving towards telling you my India experience. So the first thing you feel, or I felt when I landed in India, was the extreme heat. Like, on another level, you think living in South Africa is like hot. It's hot. No, it's overwhelming. And if you're not ready for it, you're gonna probably feel a bit ill, which is what happened to me for the first maybe 1 or 2 days, and your body climatizes and then you get okay with it. But it is extremely hot. And the next thing you notice when you're in India is people as far as the eye can see. It's just hustling and bustling. It's loud. It's colorful. It's it's just overwhelming. It's like, there's like an energy, it's like an undying energy that's 24/7 in India. And I think that was something that kept us all like just fascinated with the city or the country that never sleeps. Like I can tell you, and I can be honest, and maybe the film producers still don't know this, but we never slept. Some of our cast members, including myself, never slept, and we'd sneak out in early hours of the morning in an auto and just sit with the locals and have tea and coffee and buy torties, and it just and then like 2 hours later we'd be jumping onto the 4x4 to go on to set. So a lot of us did not sleep on the shoot, but there's so much to see in India. And mind you, I only got to visit the Tamil Nadu state. So Chennai was our base, and the villages surrounding was where we shot the movie. So from what I saw, I can say you cannot see India in one visit. You need to keep going back there. It is just that amazing. So I went, obviously, I've seen South India, and I plan on seeing the rest of it in my entire life till I die. That's how much I love it. So I thought I'd talk about some of my favorite moments while in India, and a lot of it has things to do with filming White Gold, but some of it is just random things that has always stuck with me. Um, One of them was obviously traveling on the tuk-tuks or autos, I think they're called, um, and experiencing the organized chaos where you're sitting like this the entire ride thinking you're going to die, but uh, surprisingly you don't. And I know there were lots of times Mishka and the whole cast and the director were all cramped up in one auto, and my favorite memory was the driver letting us honk the horn. For me, I don't know. It sounds like a stupid thing, but I thought it was so magical. uh, Another highlight for me was the India architecture, specifically the Tanjavur Temple. I think it's called the Chola Temple of Tanjavur, built in the 11th century. It's an UNESCO heritage site. I just was gobsmacked at the sheer opulence and beauty and magnificence of this temple. And my favorite part of visiting the temple was the elephant that greets you when you enter. He touches your head and gives you a blessing. Because my favorite animal is elephant. My favorite Hindu deity is Ganesh. So for me, that's a memory that will always stick with me. Um, this is something that we have in South Africa, but it was just such a novelty to do in India. Is the pan. Uh, Having the eating all different kinds of pan and enjoying it. And I mean, I'll be honest, I enjoy it because when I was little, my great granny, to shut us up, would take pan out of her mouth and stick it into our mouth to calm us down. So I enjoyed going out and visiting the pan stations and looking at all the different recipes they have there in India. uh, One of the things you should know when you visit India is that if you're buying tea from any establishment or coffee, it is already laced with sugar, like insane amounts of sugar. Like, wow, it's like you're having a Red Bull if you have tea or coffee in India. So that's another thing you should know. Um, the Brahmin cows, the most beautiful cows in the world, I think. You see them all over India, and they have these huge, majestic tusks, or horns, not tusks, horns. For me, yeah, the cows stuck with me. They're so beautiful, but so like intimidating at the same time. Um, Swimming in the river, I don't know what river I swam in, but if you watch the movie White Gold, there's a scene where the four boys swim in a river, and apparently the river we swam in was not no one was allowed to swim in it, but like holy people or men or um, but so we were fortunate enough to get to go and swim in there. But why I won't forget that experience is as we jumped in, our feet, and as graphic as it sounds, this is what it was. Our feet sunk into just hordes and hordes of cow dung, which was at the bottom of the river. And that feeling of, it's almost like something is grabbing onto your feet, but it was cow dung. That's a moment I won't forget in India. Attached to that moment, next to that river, was a neem tree. And you buy these neem products or neem face wash, and it's meant to clean your skin and even out your skin tone. And I can say that's true because one of our uh, guides during the shoot broke a branch of the neem tree and broke it in half, and he told us to rub it on our teeth. So I just rubbed it on one tooth and it was so much more whiter than the other tooth. And so that proved to me that neem does work and it's instant. So guys, neem works, and I learned that in India. Um, Things that you can do in India that will make you really happy is to check your bank account, put your card in the ATM, and feel rich for a little while. Especially, yeah, a South African putting their card in. That was a great feeling for me, to feel like you have so much money because of the exchange rate. Um, the traveling in the Mahindras, I think we traveled in 4x4 Mahindras to and from Sit. And if you ever wanted to feel what the Dhaka rally feels like, it was being in those, traveling to the villages. I know I can do this in South Africa, but doing it in India just made this more magical. Was carrying a baby cow. I remember carrying a baby cow. I've got a picture of it. I'm gonna find it and hopefully post it. Carrying a baby cow. You cannot deny shopping in India. Whether you're buying saris or jewelry or kurtas or perfumes or whatever you're buying, shopping is one of the, I don't know, for me, you can buy the world in India. Whatever you want, whatever you're looking for, they will find it for you. So that's an amazing thing about India. For me, the shopping front, I think I filled my suitcase with agrabati like to last me a lifetime, because I'm obsessed with incense, and so I found the most interesting smells and high quality agrabati, which we get here, but I mean the best of the best was there. Um, there's something I hold on to me from India to this day is I bought this handmade book that I write my songs in. And to this day, it is with me. It is still my songwriting book. I might have it. Do I have it here? No, okay. I can't see it anywhere near me, but it's still something I hold close to me. And it's got all my cast members from White Gold who've signed it and written something there. It's a memory I'll always, and I think the relationships I've made while in exploring India with people who have not been there before, friendships I will always hold on for the rest of my life. And case in point is Mishka, who's below me on this video. I don't know how it's looking on your side, but she's one of my best friends who experienced all of this with me, and I'm sure has a lot of moments to share with you coming up. Um, Being in India, yes, it is beautiful. Yes, it's amazing, and the insurmountable grandeur of it all is outstanding. But I think, yes, it's the little moments that are personal for you in India that you will always carry with you. And one of them for me is the hotel we stayed at were very lovely in the sense that we'd come home late from set and be so hot, and they would allow us to swim on the rooftop pool even though it was closed. And those evenings being in the pool on the roof of a hotel was just unbelievable. It's something I'd never experienced back in my hometown. And that said, I got to go to India and be treated. I was a nobody in South Africa and be treated like a movie star in India. It was just insane. I mean, we had our own caravan, and the actors, just if nobody wanted the actors to do anything but act. like, if you were carrying your bag, somebody would run and carry it for you just out of the blue. And you're not used to that in South Africa, where you're just expected to do little things like that by yourself. But in India, in the film industry in India, it is so huge that there's someone to do something. There's somebody who is hired on the set just to hold an umbrella or even open a door. And what I found interesting is when you want to open the door, because, as a South African, you're like, no, you open the door yourself. But you have to respect that in India, there are roles in the Indian film industry that are set, and especially as something as easy as opening a door, it's amazing how it comes in handy when you're on set for almost 24 hours sometimes. Um, and I think that for that was like humbling, and also to learn how the Indian people really are passionate about what they do, no matter what they do. Um, and their work ethic and um, yeah, so I was really blown away by uh, how passionate the people are, how humble they are, how friendly they are, and how accepting they were. And I think I take my hat off to the people of India, because a lot of the people I met there spoke Tamil as a first language, but had a good command of English as well. And it just says something about us. And I think Mishka as well, we've traveled expansively around the world with our work. And it's a norm for someone to know more than two languages and speak it well. Uh, so I think us South Africans have some catching up to do in that. Yes, we have 11 official languages, but can you speak your second language as well as your first? And that for me is a feat that I can learn from India. I mean, Zulu is my second language here in South Africa, and I can tell you now, I don't have a great command of it as I do with English. So I think South Africans have some catching up there to learn their official language as well. Um, Things I can tell you about India that I liked. Oh, I visited this Catholic church in India. What I liked is that some of the cultural nuances of India that are there and have not traveled here to South Africa are there. Like, I love that the Jesus statue was adorned with a garland in India. And for me, I think that's so beautiful. I was like, I wish I could see that here. It's just was just such a magical experience seeing that. So I came back from India with a spring in my step, wanting to learn an art form that hails from the country, and that came from our forebears. And for me, although I'm a Telugu boy, I should be learning in the dance world. I should have been learning Kuchipudi. I was just always amazed by Kathak, especially from the Bollywood films that I grew up with. And I was fortunate to cross paths with Guruji Manesh Maharaj. And for the past maybe 10 or 11 years, I've been studying Kathak. And for me, while learning an Indian classical art form is a lifetime commitment and devotion, I feel that in some way, whenever I dance, it is my link to India and my link to the motherland and my link to I'm here, but I'm also there. And we're keeping it alive here, and we're growing. And so uh, I really respect that the language and culture is so um, rich and so alive in India. And I really think that South African Indians have the opportunity to grow that. And we've been here in South Africa long enough. We have no excuse. So I am grateful for my visit to India, and I can't wait to go back to explore, to perform, to eat, to relax, and just to take in the magnificence of such a beautiful country. Um, when you visit India, it will change you. It will humble you. It will inspire you. You'll believe in magic. I know I did. India can't be seen in one visit, like I've seen. You have to keep coming back. And I think that India has so much to offer that you will keep coming back again and again and again in this lifetime and all the ones to follow. And I know that India is going through a tough time at the moment with the coronavirus. And I remember when I came back from India in 2010, I posted on social media that I've left a part of myself in India and that God lives there. And so I still stand by that saying that God lives in India. And I wish all the people all the very best, and my thoughts and prayers are with them. Don't lose faith, don't lose hope, and God bless. Thank you.
Indeed, that was the very talented, dynamic Mr. Rory Booth. Thank you so much, Rory G, for your remarks and sharing your memoirs of Incredible India with us. Next, we will be screening a short video on Incredible India.
Come to the land of yoga, rejuvenate your soul. Experience India.
India, incredible India.
I hope you enjoyed that video as much as we did. Our next guest artist or speaker this evening requires no introduction. I guess we all know her, a very familiar face to every one of us. Indeed, and that is Miss Mishka Pakipal. And Mishka ji is a South African actress of Indian descent, born and raised in our very own Durban. She studied drama and media at the University of KwaZulu-Natal and was subsequently based in Johannesburg. After her first film role in the year 2010, she primarily worked in television and advertising until 2015. Outside of South Africa, she is best known for her role as the lawyer Priya Sehgal in the CTV Netflix series The Indian Detective. She starred in films such as White Gold, The Dance, Pariah, Keeping Up with the Kandasamis, The Wedding, and of course, the much-awaited Tripping with the Kandasamis or Kandasamis 3. And in television, she's acted in a Snake Park, The Indian Detective, opposite Russell Peters, and of course, Celebrity Game Night SA. Welcome and namaste, Mishka ji, for your remarks this evening on episode 11 of Bharat Ek Anubhuti.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored and so privileged to be invited here today to speak. And Rory, we shared all of those memories together. What did you leave me with to speak about? Like everything you mentioned, I was like, no, I'm going to talk about that. And I was like, no, I can't say that. No, I can't say that now because you've spoken about it. But in saying that, it was when you were speaking, it brought back so many lovely and heartwarming memories. I actually got teary-eyed because I long to go back to India and even to just go back in time and have that experience again with you and Vignesh and Dean and Madhushan and Jayan. I mean, that experience made us into a family that is so close. And yeah, I'm even getting emotional just thinking about it right now. Yeah, so I went to India, as Rory said already, to shoot White Gold. It was more than just a travel for me. It was my first acting job ever. In fact, I think it was my first job I had ever auditioned for. And I was like absolutely blown away that I got cast in White Gold. But not only that, the context and the content of the film itself about our forebears coming to South Africa. To be honest, it was a story I didn't even know about. I wasn't really educated at home about that. Yes, I knew bits and pieces here and there, but I honestly didn't know the full extent to it. Not until I started reading the script and Jayan was taking us through all of this, and I was developing the character of Noor Jahan, and I had to really go in deep and do research, is when I truly found out about what was actually happening to our people when they brought us over in ships. And honestly, I felt so grateful to be part of that project. A lot of people and a lot of youngsters tell me now that they watch White Gold as part of their subject in history, just so they could learn more about our forebears and Indians coming to South Africa. It's their way of being educated. And I think that's so lovely that they get to use White Gold, a small little indie film that we were trying so hard to put together. And now it's like a staple in like South African education to educate history students. It absolutely blows my mind that it's gotten to that place. Like Rory said, I remember like telling my parents that I was going to India and telling my family I was going to India for the first time. And they were so excited. And it was this type of excitement of like, you are the chosen one, like you get to go to India, because I was the first family member that ever got to India. Like my parents and my grandparents never really experienced that, and they could never afford it. Now I get to go to India, and that experience was so prestigious and so almost unachievable for them. So they were just so excited that finally someone in our family gets to go. And after I got back from India and I told my family about all my beautiful and lovely stories about India, my grandmother was like, "Oh, I have to go." And like she tries to go like every year. Ever since I've been back from India in 2010, like my grandparents try to go to India every year. And actually, funny enough, my brother was lucky enough to do a cricket tour in India as well. So my parents got to go along with him as he represented his school in Durban to play cricket. So he was very, very lucky in that regard as well. So as we already know, I spent the majority of my time in Tamil Nadu as well. We're based in Chennai, and we traveled out every day to these different villages, and we were lucky enough to actually stay in Vignesh's village, our dear friend who we shot White Gold with. And we got to meet his family and where he grew up, and that was such a beautiful experience. Like just to see him at home in his space, and we just knew him as like this Western boy living in South Africa, and then to see him back in India with his family was such a beautiful thing to experience. And I feel so lucky that I got to experience that with him, because he hadn't seen his family, I think, in like 8 years or something completely crazy like that. So that was such a lovely experience to see. And by far, Tamil Nadu, the state of Tamil Nadu, is the most beautiful state I've ever seen. It is so lush and so green. Like the fields, I just remember walking through the fields and thinking, you don't get greener than this. Like I thought KZN was pretty beautiful and green and bright, but no. I think it was rice, because I was shooting the scene and I had to like kind of like run along the paddies. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I cannot believe this is my life. Everything is so green, and this beautiful Indian sunset behind me. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I cannot believe I get to do this. I felt so incredibly lucky and so privileged to just be there. I almost felt like I didn't deserve to be there at all to experience that moment. By far, my most favorite thing to do in India was to eat. Like, you just don't get any better than South Indian food. I'm sorry, like, oh my gosh, every day, all day. Like that, oh, if I just close my eyes, I feel like, oh, I can just taste it in my mouth. And it's not the same like eating South Indian food in South Africa. It's just not the same. And so every time we go to Vignesh's mom's house, we're like, oh yes, it's like authentic South Indian food. Oh, we just absolutely love it. It's like and we always feel like so fat and full. I'm not gonna lie, after like we've spent 4 weeks in India. At the end of my 4 weeks, my pants, I couldn't zip up my pants. I had like put on so much weight from eating so much, but I was like, oh, but I feel so good about myself. The food was so good. And actually, Rory gave me this book. It was a gift. And he wrote a little note on it. He bought himself the same book to write his songs. But I use that book now to write recipes in it. And I asked my grandmother to handwrite all these recipes in it for me so that I could have these beautiful recipes in her handwriting. I know with COVID and everything, you really don't know how much time you have with your loved ones and your family members. So she started to journal in this book just so I could have her handwriting. And I keep it in the kitchen and I'm always like looking at it. Actually, the other day I was making soji and I was like, oh, what was the recipe? And then I was so confused because I was like, I can't read her handwriting. And I was like, the soji is not looking good. I don't know what I did, but I just hope it tastes good. But I tried my best. It did turn out good. I had no complaints. Everybody enjoyed it. But yeah, I also love the architecture in India. But when Rory spoke about the church that we went to, that moment really stuck out for me because it was the first time I've been to other church services before. I'm not Christian, but I've been to other church services before. And that one really stood out to me because all the hymns were in Tamil. And it was such a beautiful and unique experience. And I honestly didn't think that the hymns would be in Tamil. I thought it would be in English. But it was so beautiful to just sit there and listen to the hymns being sung. And we were there because one of our crew members had lost his wife at the time, and it was an anniversary of her passing. So we all went together in support of him. But it was such a beautiful, beautiful experience. And the people in the village, oh my gosh, they're so welcoming and so loving and so genuine. And that's what I enjoyed the most. I was shooting the scene in White Gold where my character is cooking. So now she's a really bad cook. And she's like throwing these whole tomatoes like in the pot. And everything's going like really bad. And my co-star was like hitting me on the head and being like, no, you're doing it wrong. And then all the other ladies in the village were standing behind the camera and they were like, oh my gosh, she's so terrible to that poor child. She should be teaching her how to cook properly. They were so invested in the story. They couldn't even see that it was a film that we were making. They were like, no, this is real life. And I absolutely love that. I think that was such a genuine thing to experience. And that moment always just stuck with me in my head. The one thing I also loved the most is prayer. And, you know, when we first started filming White Gold, we did a prayer. I think we were in India when we did our first prayer. And on the last day of our shoot in India, we did our prayer. And it was so beautiful. I mean, it just brought everybody together because it wasn't just the crew and the cast. Because we were shooting in the village, it was like everybody in the village that came together and surrounded us to pray for the success of the film. And I honestly believe like it's why we were so successful and why we continue to be so successful. Because from this film to Kandasamis, to 3 Kandasamis, I think we've always just been so fortunate and so lucky that it's so well received all the time. And I think it's because of that we're so grounded in prayer in all different type of religious sects, that has made us so successful in the film industry. So I've been to India twice. My second time was not as long as my first time. My first time was 4 weeks, only in Tamil Nadu, and my second time I was in Mumbai, but I was only there for 5 days, and I was working every single day. I didn't get a chance to go out anywhere, experience anything. I didn't get a chance to shop. I was so upset because we were just so busy. We were shooting Indian Detective, and we were shooting in the rural community, like just outside of Mumbai. And we were shooting there from like 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. And we're just trying to get all the scenes done as quickly as possible because it was just so hot during the day. And there was just so many people out and about. And when we were filming, we couldn't really control crowds and that sort of thing like how we can in South Africa. So it was very, very difficult for us to film some of the scenes, especially like filming the driving scenes in the taxi was very, very difficult because we were in the taxi and then we had the cameraman like trying to run next to us because he couldn't be rigged in a car because there wasn't enough space on the road for another car to be next to our taxi. So it was incredibly difficult shooting. It wasn't relaxed as White Gold. It was very, very stressful. And in fact, we had lunch with Anupam Kher in India, and that was like so. But I had been working with him all of those weeks shooting in South Africa anyway. But to like see him in India, that was like so exciting. He came, had breakfast with us. We sat, we spoke, had a good laugh, and then he just like went on his way and he's like, okay, good luck for today's shoot, bye. And I still remember the first time I met him, like I was so scared. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. This is my dream come true. Like I had watched this man so many times on TV. Like I was obsessed with Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Like you don't understand. And even when I spoke to him for the first time over dinner, it was like a day before we started shooting Indian Detective, and I was like so shy. I went, hi, I'm playing Priya. I just want to say I'm such a huge fan. And I was like, okay, I said it, it's over. And then he was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And he was so nice about it. He was like, oh, I just love it when people tell me they're fans of me. And then we just like laughed because it was just so funny because I was so nervous about it. But he was so lovely to work with. Like we spent a lot of time together, him and I. He took me out for dinner all the time. We went out with friends of his in Cape Town. So we became very, very close, which I feel very, very fortunate for in that time. Oh, yeah. I feel like I just got flooded with a whole lot of memories of India. But yeah, it was always such a beautiful and mesmerizing experience. And like Rory touched on before, learning Hindi, I feel like that's definitely one of my goals in life to pursue. When I started shooting Indian Detective, I didn't know Hindi, and it was extremely difficult for me on set. Even though I had tutors all the time, I almost felt embarrassed every time because I was like, how could I not know? How could I not know? Like, this is where my people come from. And it does come from a place of embarrassment of like, why don't we know? And maybe we should be doing something to know and to move us forward. So that's definitely something I'd love to work towards, is to learn Hindi. Yes. One of my other most memorable moments in India is we were shooting Indian Detective, and we were in the slums or in the hood. I'm not sure what you call them, but the sun was setting, and we were doing like all these character shoots on the rooftop. And I was standing there, and the sun is setting, so the sun completely sets, and then everything goes quiet, and then all of a sudden there's a huge like hustle and bustle. And then I just look over at this one corner, and there's this uncle walking with like a huge speaker. I have no idea where he's going with the speaker. He's walking with the speaker, and then all of a sudden he starts blasting Bhangra music, and then he's putting lights on, like laser beam lights, shooting off everywhere, and then everyone is like on the road and dancing. I was like, what is happening? It's like a side of India I'd never ever seen before. Like, and we were in the slums the whole day, so I didn't expect something like that to happen there. But it was so crazy to see when the sun set, the community just come absolutely alive and vibrant, and it was so beautiful to see everybody just like dancing on the road, having such a good time, the kids as well. And like Rory said about the language, just I was speaking to like this 7-year-old on set the one day, and I was like, do you understand English? And they're like, yeah, we learn English in school. And her English was brilliant and so fluent. So yeah, Rory, when you were speaking about that, it just reminded me of that moment of me talking to that little girl. Yeah, and I think yeah, that brings me to the end of my little travelogue, and I know that it's so unfortunate that our beautiful country of India is obviously going through such a hard and suffering time. And it absolutely breaks my heart to see what's happening there, and I just wish there was something we could do more for them. And hopefully we can. And I know there are a lot of organizations that have been. So my thoughts and my prayers are with them always, and I hope that, you know, the country starts to recover soon.
Thank you so much, Mishka ji, for that very interesting insight on your journey in incredible India. I mean, it's so fascinating to know that the fangirl in you still exists despite you having so many fans yourself. We'd like to take this opportunity as well to wish you and Rory ji success in your upcoming venture of Tippin with the Kandasamis. With that, we've come to the close of Bharat Ekanubhuti, episode 11. I'd like to welcome Mr. Sipiwe Mchunu from the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban to render this evening's vote of thanks.
Namaskar. Greetings to all of you. On behalf of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban, I am delighted today to deliver a vote of thanks on today's episode 11 of the program, India A Feeling. This is an online travelogue series. Allow me to thank our online guest who participated on today's program. Mr. Rory Booth, he is an actor and a screenwriter. And secondly, I'd like to thank Ms. Mishka Pakipal. To both of them, when I was listening to them narrating their experiences in India, all of them, I came to the conclusion that they were happy in India. So to Rory ji, I'm saying second trip is loading and the third trip is loading for you to go back to India and enjoy. And to Mishka ji, the third and the fourth trip is loading after Corona. So to both of them, I'd like to say, Tanjavur, thank you, more especially to Mishka ji. You know, there was a sense in me that she's still missing India. So we'll pray that Corona must, you know, vanish, and then she can go to visit India ASAP. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Rory ji. Thank you, Mishka ji. To Director of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center in Devon, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi. Thank you very much, sir, for taking part on today's program. Srishti ji, thank you, ma'am. Piyush ji, thank you very much, sir. To all those who participated online, our online viewers, we'd like to say thank you very much for taking part on today's program. You are kindly advised to visit our Facebook page so that you will be updated about all cultural activities organized by Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center in Devon. Once again, our online guests, Mishka ji, Rory ji, thank you. Other than that, have a wonderful evening. Namaskar.